Welcome to another episode of Pizain's podcast, special ASMR edition, because me, Wizain the Pizain, has very low energy today. Just have not been feeling right. Don't know why. I don't know. It's been a big weekend. Speaking of, before I get to that, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and download our podcasts anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, iHeartRadio, and much, much more. So please follow, subscribe, share with your friends. We really appreciate it. Yippee-yo, let's go. So, like every one of my episodes, I'll start off with what's been going on with me this weekend. I'd had a special two-part Three Bozos podcast on separately, one with Brooksy Boy and one with Javi Bose. Then, me and the family, we decided to go have a nice brunch. It was very nice. I had French toast filled with cream cheese, topped with blueberry. My wife had a less than satisfying burrito. The insides were not cooked very well. The egg was cold and overcooked. The bacon was floppy, no crisp to it at all. She was very upset. But the one thing that we did enjoy and indulge in were the bottomless mimosas. We had quite a few. It made for the rest of the day pretty good. And after that, we came home and relaxed. It's been a nice weekend. Today is Memorial Day. And while most of us have off work, we shouldn't forget what today is all about, is remembering those who have fallen for our country in defense of it and its ideals of freedom, liberty, and all that's good stuff. Not something I want to make light of. It's a serious matter. Please remember those who've sacrificed their lives for this country. Having said that, on to the news. Unfortunately, my typical news feed, 1440, they decided to take the weekend off. So I'm actually having to scour for stories. So, hey, why not go to the biggest and best website for news stories, AP News. And the top story, Netanyahu says deadly Israeli strike in Rafah was the result of a tragic mistake. Like he hasn't already made enough words are hard today. Tragic mistakes. Let's start off with this. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Monday that a tragic mistake was made in an Israeli strike in the southern Gaza city of Rafah that set fire to a camp housing displaced Palestinians and, according to local officials, killed at least 45 people. The strike only added to the surging international criticism Israel has faced over its war with Hamas, with even its closest allies expressing outrage at civilian deaths. Israel insists it adheres to international law, even as it faces scrutiny in the world's top courts, one of which, last week, demanded that it halt the offensive in Rafah. He didn't elaborate on the error. They say it was precise airstrike, yet a fire emerged, and they're opening an investigation into the deaths of the civilians. Some of this gets pretty grisly. I'm going to read this portion. Mohammed Abusa, who rushed to the scene in the northwest neighborhood of Tel Al Sultan, said rescuers pulled out rescuers pulled out people who were in an unbearable state. We pulled out children who were in pieces. We pulled out young and elderly people. The fire in the camp was unreal, he said. At least 45 people were killed, according to the Gaza Health Ministry and the Palestinian Red Crescent Rescue Service. The ministry said the dead included at least 12 women, 8 children, and 3 older adults, with another 3 bodies burned beyond recognition. So, I mean, this is supposed to be an area where these displaced people whose homes have already been bombed and destroyed and they have nowhere to go. This is supposed to be a safe place for them. And in another effort to get Hamas, they killed a lot more innocent people. I think this is kind of getting to a point now where Israel's wrath is going to, well, here's more. In a separate development, Egypt's military said one of its soldiers was shot dead during an exchange of fire in the Rafah area without providing further details. Israel said it was in contact with Egyptian authorities, and both sides said they were investigating. I mean, you got countries after country, like they're just starting to pile up on how saying how wrong this is, and Israel's losing more and more friends, and shit. I mean, the more and more they do this, the closer we are to a world war. You know, you get one country after another supporting this, and they're going to be all by themselves, and they're going to have nobody to blame but themselves. Sad. It's ridiculous. Could be avoided, but oh well. We'll see how it develops. Yeah, and not as, depressing, but still depressing news. Bill Walton, Hall of Fame player who became a star broadcaster, dies of cancer at 71. Old Bill Walton. And if you're a young guy, he was like one of the, the old school 7-foot guys. 2-time NBA champion, basketball Hall of Fame inductee. He was great in broadcasting. He's truly a legend in NBA. 71. But, it's what happens. We all get older, and, 71 is still kind of young, but, I'm like bringing this down to 0. Jeez. Everything is just like sad stories. I guess that's like the whole news, right? Everything's sad. It's like good feel-good stories don't get clicks. So we'll just keep, piling on the tragedy. Here, I'm going back to another story. Like, here's some clickbaity stuff. A dying teacher's final lessons. Don't wait to say thank you. Suicide is not a joke, but this makes me want to slit my wrists, like, reading this stuff. Hey, here we go. Child mortality rates have plummeted in nearly all countries. That's good news. And here's another good news. Pro football player Derek Noddy dedicates the offseason to shelter dogs. Let's click on this story. Let's get a little bit of, hope in our lives here. 5 years of football dominance in Kansas City inspired a spike in dogs named Kelsey, and for the creative type, some feline Catrick Mahomeses. But in Lewisburg, Kansas, Shelley Trester and her family went a different route. They named their dog Noddy. Derek Noddy, a soft-spoken 317-pound defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, is not one of the splashier names on the team, but he's no Harrison Buckner. No, he is not. But he has endeared himself to animal advocates because he rescues dogs. Chiefs coach Andy Reid calls him the Dog Whisperer. So I'm not going to read the whole story. It's a long story. But I like to always hear about when NFL stars, use their influence to, for shelter dogs and things like that. Godwin with he's a wide receiver for the Bucks. He just did an event with the Pound in Tampa over the weekend, and they cleared out the entire shelter. They have never done that before. So, I mean, these guys can make a difference with that sort of thing, in a day and age where everyone wants a designer dog that you can get from a breeder. And unfortunately, half the time that's, not ideal conditions for the dogs. Are inbred, and a lot of people just do it for money. There's a ton of nice dogs at the shelter, that have a limited time before they're put down, and to get a dog from there and save their life, and sometimes it can save your life by being that companion that you've always needed. I recommend adoption. So, Derek Noddy, you get a Pizain's thumbs up. Yeah, buddy. What else do we have? I think I saw that the guy who made Super Size Me died. If you don't remember, yeah, Morgan Spurlock. He won an Oscar. He was nominated for an Oscar for the film Super Size Me, where he ate McDonald's diet for a month, only McDonald's. And if they asked him if he wanted to supersize it, he had to say yes every single time. That was part of his experiment. And he ended up if I remember, his health deteriorated big time. His cholesterol went through the roof. It definitely showed that if you eat McDonald's every day, that you're definitely gonna die. And he's the reason why they stopped supersizing things. It put a bad light on them, so they would stop supersizing everything. And it's a big deal. I remember those days. The supersize thing was a big craze. It's like, man, yeah, you get a lot more fry, a lot more drink for not a lot more money. Well, less time on this earth is what you get. But his death, didn't relate to that. He died of cancer-related complications. He was pretty young. He was only 53, so that's kind of a bummer. But that's one of those things that was huge pop culture back in the day. So, Neanderthals and ancient humans only briefly commingled. A new genetic analysis suggests a wave of Homo sapiens arrived in Western Eurasia around 47,000 years ago, intermixing with Neanderthals for around 7,000 years, a relatively short window in evolutionary timescales. Yes, briefly on an evolutionary scale, but 7,000 years is a really fucking long time. So I don't really agree with that. Exchange-traded crypto funds move forward. U.S. financial regulators approved applications for NASDAQ, Chicago Board Operations Exchange, and the New York Stock Exchange to list exchange-traded funds that track the price of cryptocurrency Ether. Ether is the second largest cryptocurrency behind Bitcoin, with a circulating supply worth $440 billion. Well, that's good news, because I have a stipend of various cryptocurrencies, and anything positive in the crypto sphere is positive for Pizain the Pizain. Who knows? Maybe if I hit it big, I can do this podcast full time. Quit my 9 to 5. Just wake up. Read the news. Give you guys maybe a more high production value podcast. So whatever's good for the goose is good for the gander. What else do we have here? Nothing here. Let's go back to the AP news. They always always positive AP news that doesn't talk about the mass death of women and children. Let's see. Let's go to their entertainment section. Furiosa sneaks past Garfield to claim #1 spot over Memorial Day holiday weekend. That dastardly cat almost took the #1 spot. They were tied there for a while. But if you go over to this story, 2 panels over, Furiosa, Garfield leads slowest Memorial Day box office in decades. Oh no. Well, what can I say? Nobody goes to the movies anymore. COVID killed the movies. Streaming killed the movies. Nobody wants to go watch it. I can't tell you the last time I went to a movie theater and watched a movie. I can just do it at the convenience of my own home, pop my own popcorn. I have an air popper, so it's even cheaper. I just buy some kernels, throw it in that bitch. Next thing you know, I got a big old bowl of popcorn. That's healthy for you, too. It's all about the toppings you put on. I like to just put a little bit of olive oil on there, and that's it. Anyways, I did that's a good segue. I watched a pretty good movie today. We streamed it. It was the Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. It was about a fall guy. Well, they call him a fall guy because he's a stunt man. A stunt man in love with a camera woman, played by Emily Blunt. And he has an unfortunate accident on set, and in recovery, he decides to isolate himself from Emily Blunt, so their romance could not progress. Well, 18 months later, he's called onto a movie set, and lo and behold, Emily Blunt is now directing her first motion picture, a big sci-fi epic. And, well, let's just go to say, shenanigans happen. The major movie star, who Ryan Gosling is the stuntman for, well, he goes missing. And in Get Him to the Greek-like style, Ryan Gosling has to go find him. He finds trouble along the way, but luckily his stuntman training helps him. And I don't want to give any more else. That's just the basic premise. But for an action film, I think he's just trying to man up a little bit after his whole Barbie role. For a mindless action film, it was okay. I give it a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. It's worth a watch. But, well, we might see the downfall of Hollywood in general. I think people are starting to get tired of all of the forced agendas, if you want to say it. Well, Furiosa is a good example. Yes, let's put a 100-pound woman as a giant badass kicking the ass of a giant 6'4" Adonis and Chris Hemsworth, because that's believable. If they really wanted to make a good Mad Max movie, they could just, call up Tom Hardy again, or better yet, bring back Mel Gibson. That's been a long enough time since he's starting to do movies again. And he was blackballed a bit for some unsavory comments he had about certain people. But, yeah, he's kind of back. I bet it would sell out. Everybody would want to see Mel Gibson as Mad Max. Well, we don't get too many good movies anymore. Anywho, that's always my segue word when I'm ready to move on to a new story. Anywho, speaking of, well, I guess before we move on, there's a story here about Daisy Ridley, and it's a biopic about the woman who was the first to swim the English Channel in 1926. And which sounds fine, that's a movie. People might see that. But then it references her upcoming Star Wars film. Who asked for another Star Wars film involving Rey? Now, I'm not the hugest Star Wars nerd. I do like them. They're good movies. I like the first ones, I should say. The originals. And then the prequels, each one of them sucked, but they had good moments in them. And then you had the most recent ones. And they were all terrible. All the ones that Daisy Ridley were in. They were plot terrible. They made her a Mary Sue. If you don't know what a Mary Sue is, just go look it up. And I don't know. It made her unlikable. I mean, she doesn't seem like an unlikable person, but all of that made her unlikable. They really dropped the ball. Such a cool, world that has been built, and only Disney would completely fuck it up. Although the first season of The Mandalorian was really cool, and Rogue One was really cool, and I hear Andor is pretty cool. I didn't get to see that one yet, though. But for every one of those, there is, a bunch of stupid shit. So back to my segue of anywho. Let's see. Nah, it's basically shitting on all these movies. Oh, I told you guys. It was a low energy one for me today. I'll try to come back tomorrow and bring, I don't know, more fire in my ass and not just my hemorrhoids. Fire in my heart for the love that I have for this podcast and everything about it. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, download, and share with your friends. The Three Bozos podcast, Pizain's podcast, just all the stuff we put out. You can find us on X, TikTok, Instagram. I think I'll be working on a YouTube, maybe a Facebook as well. And just do a search for Three Bozos and look for the picture of the three evil clowns. That's us. Give us a follow, a comment, Show your support. It means a lot to us. We have some humble beginnings here, but it's something that we're having a lot of fun with, and we want to keep doing. And every, little bit of positive feedback we get just gives us that much more motivation. Anywho, segue again with my anywho. That's all I got. Don't forget to listen to The Big Show on the weekends. I just released 2 more episodes. Don't forget to listen to those. And then this Saturday, the Three Bozos back again. You got me, Pizain the Pizain, Javi Bose, and Brooksy Boy, all together on the same show. Who knows what we'll talk about? Things might get a little crazy. I don't know. Well, that's it. Yippee-yo. Let's go. See ya.